My parents called me the spare twin. They said, "Your sister is the one." Years later, she begged for my inheritance, and I had proof to destroy her. I'm Ethan, a 23-year-old guy who was always the extra kid my parents kept around until they found out someplace else to put me. My sister was the golden kid, while I was essentially the family's spare part. Years later, she contacts me with a foolish request. My folks join in, and things take a very amusing turn. Let's just say I had the final laugh. It may or may not have included a mop, a blue outfit, and my attempt not to pass out from laughter. From the start, it was clear who was the show's star. My twin sister, Chloe, 23, is a female with blonde hair, green eyes, dimples, and all the characteristics of an angel kid that people adore. Every time someone saw us, they said, "Oh, she's gorgeous." Then they said, "And that's her brother," as if I was her driver or something. My parents, John and Rebecca, ate it up. If Chloe just burped softly, she was elegant. If I did anything, it would be lethargic, uninspired, and problematic. And I am not exaggerating. One year for Christmas, she received an iPad, while I received socks. Not great socks. Clearance socks. 2 sizes are too small. They relished pointing out that I had darker complexion than Chloe. She inherited her mother's fair complexion and her father's fair eyes. I got me. Guess which one goes better with their family photo style? Spoiler. Not the youngster who was advised to stand in the rear so the light wouldn't wash out your sister's face. Growing up, I was the designated errand guy. If they needed someone to clean the garage, it would be me. It's Chloe's time to clean dishes. No, she had homework, so I completed them. Family excursions. Oh, I was invited, but only to carry baggage and photograph everyone else having fun. What still makes my eye twitch is that I was never permitted to be in some family photos. They'd make 2 versions, one with Chloe front and center and one with just her. My version did not exist. The day they finally decided they were done with me was almost hilarious. I was 14. Chloe was 14. We each had an upcoming school concert. I didn't want to wear the itchy, too tight outfit my mother chose for me. I expressed my discomfort and requested if I might change into something more comfortable. That is it. That is the crime. I didn't want to appear as if I was headed to court for tax fraud. Mom had a complete meltdown. Dad backed her up, stating I was ungrateful and humiliating to the family. The next thing I know, they're saying, "You know what? Maybe it's better if you go live with Uncle James and Aunt Laura for a while." That while turned into forever. Here's the bit that makes things worse. They did not disguise the motive. A week later, I overheard my mother on the phone stating, "We chose to keep the better child." That's me they're referring to. Or more accurately, not me. Uncle James and Aunt Laura, Dad's brother and wife, were shocked. They were not wealthy, but they were nice people. When they picked me up, they assured me that I would have my own room and space, and that I would not be treated like luggage. My parents scarcely said goodbye. Chloe waved at me from the porch, as if I were going on a school trip. My mother's final words were, "Don't cause them as much trouble as you caused us. No hugs. No, we will miss you. Just one final stab to remember them by." The first night with Uncle James and Aunt Laura made me understand how different my life may be. They inquired whether I was hungry. They never compared me to Chloe once. They didn't care what I was wearing as long as it was clean. They treated me like I was a member of the family, which felt strange at first because I wasn't used to it. But the problem was that even after I left, my parents found methods to remind me that I was the reject. They'd send me cards for Chloe's birthday with photographs of her as she grew older, but no mention of me. My favorite was when they sent me a family photo with me clipped out. You could still see my hand resting on Chloe's shoulder. Classy. I used to believe it may be me. Maybe I was the problem kid. But living with James and Laura taught me that I wasn't. It turns out that if you treat a child as if they are important, they will behave accordingly. So, it is how I became the spare twin. There were no spectacular judicial custody fights or sad catastrophes, just 2 parents who decided which child looked better on their Christmas cards. And really, that was the finest thing they could have done for me. Because while Chloe was being nurtured as the golden kid, I got out. I got to live with individuals who didn't mind how I appeared in images. And one day, I was going to make sure that their decision to discard me was the one that came back to hit them the worst. So I thought moving with Uncle James and Aunt Laura would be the end of it. They kicked me out, so why should they care what I did? Yeah. It turns out that my parents were not the kind to let things go. They were the sort of people who would put something in the garbage and then complain because the trash didn't send them thank you cards. That Christmas marked the beginning of their strange behavior. James pulls in a bundle of mail and gives me a card with my name on it. I open it, and there's a beautiful photo of my parents and Chloe in matching sweaters hugging a golden dog I'd never seen before. Large lettering on the front. Merry Christmas, from our ideal family. My name was not even printed inside, only a Sharpie. Message. You would look better in this photo if you worked harder. Merry friggin' Christmas. Then they got inventive. On my 16th birthday, a box arrives. Inside there is only one cupcake. There is no icing or message, just a candle shoved in the middle. And I realized right away that they hadn't remembered my birthday. It was their way of saying, "You're not worth an actual cake." Another time, a padded package arrived, containing a present. My antique third-grade participation ribbon, charred on the edges. I suppose they felt it would really stick it to me. This item was not for me. It was for them. They weren't attempting to reconnect. They weren't even attempting to harm me in a way that made sense. They simply wanted to ensure that I never forget I was the rejected one. It was only about malice. The oddest thing was that the harassment was planned. I'd get something from Chloe, then from Mom a week later, and finally from Dad. Like they have a harassing schedule posted on the fridge. Someone even mailed me a flash disk. I plugged it in. A huge error. And there came a slideshow showcasing Chloe's accomplishments. School accolades, holiday shots, her carrying trophies, all set to this goofy, inspiring music. I couldn't go through it without laughing. By the age of 17, it had become physical. They showed up twice. This is the first time I have come home from school. James stands on the porch clutching a large framed photograph. My parents had just left it there. It was an updated family picture. Only the three of them and the dog. In the frame behind the glass, pasted in the corner, was a little baby photo of myself with a red X through it. Second time I'm walking home. I see a vehicle parked at the corner. Chloe is leaning out the window, carrying a large sign that reads, "Need money? Ask your real family." A couple of school kids were behind me. They witnessed everything. Chloe waved as if she were at a parade. I didn't even react, just continued going. I think my lack of concern irritated her more than anything. The final straw arrived a few months later. A parcel shows up. Big, hefty box. I open it to reveal a shoebox, full with dirt and debris. On top of the soil was a message that said, "This is all you'll ever be worth to us." James almost phoned the cops. I advised him to not bother. I didn't want them to assume they had received a response. But in my thoughts, I made an essential decision. I wasn't just going to cut them off. I was planning to maintain receipts. Every insult, every petty prank was saved until the day when I could finally use them. By that point, James and Laura were saying, "They're not going to stop unless you cut every line of contact." So I did. New phone number, privacy settings on school records, and mail routed to a P.O. box. For over a year, everything was calm. No cards, no parcels, and no parade stunts. I nearly believed they had finally moved on. But here's what I've discovered about individuals like my parents and Chloe. They aren't reaching out because they miss you. They're reaching out because they want something, and when that something reappeared years later, it was accompanied by a phone call from Chloe, who pretended to be our closest friend. I could tell it was terrible news before I even picked up. I changed my phone number years ago following the dirt in a box farce, so she must have sweet-talked a cousin, or guilted a relative into giving it to her. First and foremost, seeing her name on my phone was similar to having the IRS audit department appear on your caller ID. You're not receiving good news. Second, I had not heard from her in years. She was carrying that large "Need Money, Ask Your True Family" sign out of a vehicle window when she last contacted me. So, while I wasn't anticipating a heart-to-heart, curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what angle she was taking this time. I respond. Her voice is sugary, sweet, false, and happy, similar to how the Kardashians talk. Yes, that tone. "Hey, it has been forever. How are you?" I play along. "Let me guess. This call concludes with you begging for money." She chuckles as if I was joking. "Oh, stop. Seriously, I've been thinking about you. We should catch up." Which is Chloe speak for, "I want something." I just wasn't sure what it was yet. We do the awkward dance for around 2 minutes. Her chatting about her busy life, and my quick responses. Then she moves in for the kill. "So I heard Uncle James received some money from Grandma and Grandpa." Bingo. I maintain a bland tone. "Yeah, they left a trust in my name, which James maintained. He recently moved it to me a few months ago, so it is now mine. Well, I just thought, since we're twins, it would make sense to divide it. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Divide my inheritance? That is adorable. She did not laugh back. I am serious, Ethan. We are family. The family shares. I could feel my jaw clench. Funny. You refused to share when I was having supper alone in the kitchen, allowing you to sit at the nice table. God, you're so theatrical, she exclaims, suddenly switching to the tone she used as a child. The one that made everything I said seem insane. It's about doing the right thing. I need this money for college. Oh, I answered. You mean the college you might have paid for with the funds your parents set up? The one Mom told James about before I learned from a cousin that you spent it on handbags and a vacation to Italy. Silence. That hit. Then she snaps back. That was different. I was living my life. You have had it easy with James and Laura. You don't need that much money. The arrogance made me chuckle again. Let's get this straight. You squandered your own education funds, and now you believe you are entitled to mine. Since I had a nice life with people who genuinely wanted me. You are being selfish, she says. If our roles were reversed, I would assist you. Oh yes, I said. It's strange because when I requested to borrow your graphing calculator in high school, you advised me to purchase my own, but now I'm expected to support your entire future. Her voice changes from pleasant to harsh. If you aren't going to do the right thing, maybe your parents should talk to you. I smirked. Go for it. Haven't talked to them in a while. Should be fun. Click the button. She hangs up. 45 hours later, my phone begins to blow up. First it's my mother, then my father, and finally an aunt I don't recall meeting. All using the same script. It is your responsibility to support your sister. You wouldn't have the same life without us. Without them, the same folks who abandoned me at their brother's house as if I were a broken toaster. One voicemail from my father stated, "You're still my son, so I have a right to ask this of you." Which was funny because the only time he's ever used the words on me is when he's trying to guilt trip me. One even provided me a link to a GoFundMe page Chloe created titled, "Help me get to college, my brother won't help." The description was pure gold. My twin brother was granted a large quantity of money, but he refuses to share with me. Even while he understands how essential my education is, he has had it easy his entire life, whereas I have fought. Last summer the girls' fight took place at an all-inclusive resort in the Maldives. The greatest part? The GoFundMe page included a photo of her standing next to a BMW. I wasn't furious at this time about her BMW. I was impressed. Chloe's entitlement was not merely typical golden kid enthusiasm, it was Olympic level. It takes confidence to spend your own money, beg for someone else's, and yet act like you're the victim. James and Laura were about to contact her and shut it off, but I persuaded them to hold off. Something inside of me had moved during that phone chat. I'd been cutting them off for years to escape their mess. Now I wanted to lean into it, not because I was going to hand them a penny, but because Chloe had just given me the ideal situation. She was blatantly lying about the reason she needed the money. My parents were backing her up like the devoted little enablers they'd always been. And here I was, armed with both physical and digital receipts, demonstrating she was lying. Instead of rejecting their calls, I began answering them, allowing them to rant while pretending as if I was contemplating the situation. I preserved everything of it. Screenshots, voicemails, and a GoFundMe link. I even had a common friend email me images of her gloating about her Italy shopping trip and Maldives vacation in a private group conversation. It wasn't simply about money anymore. It was about ensuring that everyone received precisely what they earned. That night, Chloe texted me one more time before remaining silent. In a way, I am receiving what I deserve. I grinned at the phone. Yeah, I figured you would. Just not in the way you expect. See, people like Chloe and my parents don't know when to give up. If you let them think they're tiring you out, they'll just keep talking. And the more they talk, the more ammunition they provide you. So I choose not to block them. I decided to let the pandemonium in just long enough to get what I needed. The following morning, Chloe phoned again. I could see she had been practicing her reasonable voice. Ethan, I just want to work things out. I'm not asking for it all. Just enough to cover the tuition. Uh-huh. How much is sufficient? I inquired, knowing full well that the amount would be outrageous. She did not disappoint. 45,000. But that's only the start. There are also books, housing, and personal well-being. I cut in silence. Then he said, "How do you know that?" I replied, "I'm psychic." She huffed and changed the subject, but I could sense the worry in her tone. That informed me she understood she'd spoken too much elsewhere and was curious where I'd heard it. Meanwhile, my parents were doing their own campaign. My mother tried the "I'm just concerned" tactic. "Chloe is quite stressed, Ethan. You have always been the strong one. You can live without this money, but she cannot. Be a bigger person. You're not the golden kid, thus your life is intended to be more difficult." I knew I needed to keep them talking. So I began asking questions. So, if I helped, what precisely would the money be used for? I'd make it sound like I was thinking about it, then sit back and let them probe further. They emailed me spreadsheets. Actual spreadsheets. Chloe had created a college budget file, complete with color labeling. Tuition and books accounted for around 20%. The remaining expenses included a $6,500 wardrobe update, $3,500 for networking events and reading parties, and $10,200 for mobility upgrades, which was code for a new automobile. I transmitted the material to myself using 3 separate email addresses. I was not going to lose that jewel. About a week into this, I received a text from a mutual buddy. One of those folks who want to remain impartial yet enjoys a little of drama. She provided me photos from Chloe's private Instagram, posts of her visiting high-end stores, and selfies with titles like, "Manifesting my dream car." No one can tell me I can't have the life I deserve. Gold. Pure gold. I began to see the wider picture. Chloe expected this to be a brief guilt trip and a paycheck. My parents believed they could continue to put pressure on me as they had done in the past. None of them understood they were giving me enough information to destroy their reputation in one shot. But time was important. You do not simply drop all of the ammunition at once. You wait until they've progressed to the point where dropping it is not only pleasurable, but also irrevocable. So I continued giving them just enough hope to keep them talking. I mean, maybe I could help with some of it. I will think about it. Let me see how much I can save after my own costs. Every time I stated anything like that, Chloe's text became nicer. My mother began sending me texts saying she was thinking about you. My father even inquired about my employment as if he cared. It wasn't real. Everything was wonderful. Then Chloe made her first major error. She gave me a photo of a fancy handbag she recently purchased, claiming it was an investment item for interviews. The $1,500 tag was still on it. The sting was that she sent it while simultaneously messaging me about how broke she was and how she didn't have enough money for textbooks. I did not react. I've just saved it. 2 days later, she made another error. She announced on Instagram that she was going a weekend getaway with pals to unwind before the semester began. The setting was a 5-star resort, and the caption said, "Self-care is essential to success." I did not answer either. Saved it. By this point, I had screenshots of her shopping sprees, proof she wasted her initial college fund, the crazy college budget file, and her parents, my parents in name only, publicly supporting her entitled crap in messages and voicemails. All I needed was one more thing. A strong indication that they were not going to stop until they were publicly shamed. It arrived in the guise of a group message. Chloe added me, my parents, and perhaps 6 other relatives to a chat called Family Support. She began with, "I'm reaching out," so everyone could hear how Ethan refuses to help his twin sister with her future, despite having more than enough to improve her life. My mom said, "We're just asking for fairness. He's been blessed and should share." That was all. The ideal configuration. They had made it public among the family. They'd drawn their line, and they had no clue I was standing on the opposite side with a match and a gallon of petrol. When I lighted this up, I determined right away that I wasn't going to turn them off. I planned to make sure they couldn't twist it later. No misconceptions. No, it is not what we intended. Only their words, behavior, and entitlement are on full show. Once it was out there, there was no turning back. They intended to make it public. Fine. I was planning to make it permanent. I took a big breath, accessed the family support group chat, and began typing as if I were ready to submit a final paper that I was confident would receive an A. First message. Okay, now that we're discussing freely in front of everyone, let's make sure we all have the same knowledge. This is Chloe's comprehensive college budget proposal. I then attached the spreadsheet she had supplied me. You could almost hear the group conversation halt for a collective double take. Next message, you'll notice that just 20% of this is for college. The remainder is $6,500 for apparel, $10,200 for a mobility upgrade, and $5,000 for personal health, which based on her receipts likely includes facials, yoga retreats, and even a membership to an influencer's lifestyle course. Then I dropped the handbag image, which still had the $1,500 tag on it. This was bought yesterday. I'm not sure how this comes into the struggling student category, but maybe it's a textbook holder. There was a brief moment of silence in the talk. Then my mother gets in. That isn't the point, Ethan. The point is, you have been blessed. I interrupted her with an Instagram screenshot of Chloe at the 5-star resort. And here's a quick self-care excursion from last weekend. It must be tough to manage college applications with poolside mimosas. Oh wait. I am not permitted to discuss the alcohol. My fault. The conversation begins to spiral out of control. A handful of cousins depart the gathering quickly. One aunt sends an eye emoji. My father attempts damage control. Ethan, this is needless. We are family. So I reached for the throat. I included documentation from a common acquaintance that shows Chloe talking in a private group conversation about how she had already spent her original college fund on Italy and the Maldives. Along with her exact words. It's okay. I'll just ask Ethan to pay for the remainder. He owes me anyhow. I captioned it. So just to be clear, I owe you because when I was 14, our parents dumped me on James and Laura so they could keep the more attractive one. I want to be sure I grasped the rationale. At this point, the group conversation was more than simply uncomfortable. It was nuclear fallout. My phone started buzzing as if it were attempting to flee the table. Relatives were DMing me individually, claiming they had no idea or had always sensed something was wrong with Chloe's stories. Chloe finally responded in the group. You're taking everything out of context. That wasn't what I meant. I laughed out loud when reading it. Out of context? She actually stated it out in the correct context. So I struck them with the finisher. Here is the context. Chloe, you are not getting paid. Mom and Dad. You taught her to believe she has the right to whatever she wants, and now you're startled that it's backfiring on you. You could have left me alone, but you came after me, and now you have the entire family watching. This is the final time I will react to any of you. Goodbye. I then quit the group. It felt fantastic. It's like walking away from a trash fire that you didn't start but definitely completed. But I wasn't finished. I shared the identical proof, every screenshot, file, and photo to the opposite side of the family, who had not participated in the discussion. I didn't want Chloe or my parents to think Ethan was being cruel or making things up. Nope. The receipts were bulletproof. Within 24 hours, Chloe's GoFundMe page had been erased. Not because she had met her aim, but because the remarks were harsh. One cousin even shared the entire screenshot album in the comments. So, anyone who clicked the link saw the entire tale before even reading her proposal. People started sharing links to the screenshots I'd given, claiming she was a fraudster. Someone even posted a college fund, which is more like a vacation fund. James and Laura were unable to stop smiling for a week. James even prepared popcorn one night and claimed, "This is better than Netflix." The best thing is that Chloe hates losing face. She may have simply accepted the L and gone on. Instead, she doubled down and tried to convince some family that the images were outdated or manipulated. However, the timestamps and information in the screenshots immediately disproved that deception. Every time she attempted to get out of it, someone else provided me her reason, and I showed them proof that she was lying again. Her reputation in the family plummeted quicker than a bad cryptocurrency. Party invitations are no longer available. My mom's proud parent posts about her are vanished. Even her pals began unfollowing her online. And I didn't even have to raise a finger after the initial explosion. The problem merely continued to expand on its own. It was no longer about money. It was all about control. For the first time, they had nothing on me. They couldn't blame me, alter the facts, or disguise what they'd been doing for years. I had turned their small public shaming effort into a career-ending PR disaster. All I had to do was give them their own words back. I assumed that was the end of it. However, I misjudged how desperate entitled individuals can get when the gravy train failed. Because a few months later, when their financial problems became apparent, my parents showed up at my door. Not to shout, guilt trip, or plead. And that was the finest moment of all. Picture it. Saturday afternoon, I'm in sweats, halfway through a dish of leftover lasagna, and watching a guy on TikTok describe how to remodel a 1-meter room using just galvanized steel. Life is calm. Then knock knock. Not the casual sort. Not a neighbor stealing sugar knock. This was sharp, fast, and desperate. I look out the window and almost drop my fork. Mom and Dad are on my porch. For a moment, I thought they were presenting an apology basket. You know, one of those pricey arrangements with nice cheeses and perhaps a small letter saying, "Sorry for being trash, parents." But nada. They were standing there in clothing that looked like they had been slept in, with expressions that suggested someone had just seized their souls. I opened the door halfway because I am not foolish. Wow, the better child is busy today. So you choose to slum it? Dad attempts to chuckle. Ethan, come on. That is not essential. Oh, this is vital. I ask them, so, what brings you here? Forgot my birthday again and wanted to make up for the last 20 years? Mom jumps in, clasping her hands as if auditioning for a church choir. We have made errors. We are aware of this. But we are still family, and family should end there. I cut her off since the last time I heard the term family from you, it was followed by a request for money. And based on your expressions, this isn't a social call. They share a glance that suggests they were trying to warm me up before telling me why they drove here. Finally, Dad says something. We were in a difficult place. I lean against the doorframe. A tight situation. Did Chloe purchase too many personal wellness packages? Mom sighs, as if she was the one who had been mistreated. The residence is under foreclosure. We've had some bills mount up, and your sister is right on time. Chloe walks up from the driveway, wearing designer sunglasses and clutching a coffee cup the size of her head. Hey Ethan, she says as if she were welcoming a waiter. She is about to stiffen on a tip. I grin. Well, assuming that isn't the subject of the GoFundMe scammer documentary. What's up, sister? She ignores it. We are just here to discuss. Things have been difficult and you have the resources to aid us. There it was. Not even suited up this time. Just give me your money. I tilt my head. You're correct, Chloe. I do have the resources and I am utilizing them for my own benefit. I know, it's a crazy notion. Dad takes a step forward, as if he is attempting to recover fatherly authority that he never earned. We are requesting an interest-free loan to help us get back on our feet. I laugh. You've been on your feet for years. They've just stepped on everyone else's toes. And now that you've tripped, you want me to be your crutch. Mom attempts the guilt trip next. We took you in as a newborn. I'm sorry, I interrupted. You gave me away to James and Laura because I did not fit the Christmas photo style. Let us not change history. Chloe scoffed. God, you are so theatrical. It's only money. You act as if we are asking for your kidney. Yes, I say. But notice the difference. If you removed my kidney, you'd probably sell it and then come back begging for the other one. Dad's jaw tightens. We're giving you an opportunity to be the greater person here. I smirk. I've been the bigger person since I was 14. You were all too busy polishing Chloe's halo to notice. They're all standing there now, shuffling uneasily, understanding that their old approaches aren't working. So Mom abandons her pretense of humility and plunges headfirst into desperation. If we lose our house, we won't have anywhere to go. Bummer, I say. On the plus side, taking family photographs is much easier when there is no furniture in the way. Chloe tries one more time. Please, Ethan, only enough to get us back on our feet. I vow I will repay you. I lock eyes with her. Oh, as if you were going to repay your original education fund or pay for your own vacations rather than setting up a GoFundMe to swindle family. Forgive me if your track record does not instill confidence. There is a long delay. Nobody is smiling anymore. Chloe appears ready to spew nails. Dad's face is crimson. Mom's eyes are moist, but not from grief, but from wrath because I am not folding. So I finished it. Calm, steady, and no yelling. You all made your decision long ago. You choose your favorite. You supported her even when she was incorrect. And you determined that I was expendable. Now you're standing here because you require anything from the disposable one. So here's my response. The same one you've given me all my life. No. And with that, I closed the door. I stood there for a second, listening. Nothing. No knocking. There was no yelling. Just the sound of footsteps returning to the car. Then the engine starting. I went back to my lasagna. And let me tell you, it was delicious. Life after closing that door on them was calm. Quiet in the best possible manner. No unexpected knocks. No guilt trip voicemails. and no strange family group chats attempting to conduct an intervention for my conscience. Just me, James, Laura, my goals, and the bequest, which belonged entirely in my account. I didn't boast about it. Not because I was the greater person, but because the enjoyment did not require an audience. I knew that was enough, but the world chose to give me an encore. It was Friday night. I was out with two companions to a nice mid-range restaurant with no graphics on the menus and servers who act as if they developed the specials. We just finished eating a dish of appetizers. When I got up to use the restroom, as I walked down the hall by the kitchen entrance, I noticed a mop handle hanging out of a yellow bucket. Then I spotted her. Chloe, hair wrapped back in a bun, had lost the fight hours before. Blue janitor suit, rubber gloves, sweeping the tile floor with the same zeal as someone removing graffiti from a gas station wall. I froze. Then, without trying, I burst out laughing. You can't fake this laugh because it's the result of genuine amazement and delight crashing in your chest. She looked up and suddenly turned pale. "Oh my God," she whispered, attempting to turn her face away. "No, don't hide," I responded, immediately taking out my phone. "Blue truly suits you. Honestly, this looks better than the Maldives bikini photos." "Delete that," she said, pointing to my phone as I took the first image. Click. She attempted to step behind the mop bucket, but I joined her. "Come on, sister. Only one for the family album. We can put it next to the one where you held up the necessary funds. Request that your immediate family members sign." Click. Click. Her jaw clenched. "Ethan, I swear to God that you swear a lot. I cut in as if you were going to pay back your college fund. As if you would not spend money. As if you'd receive what you earned. It seems like you did." A few of diners on their way to the restroom slowed down and looked at her, then at me. I gave them a shrug and stage whispered, "We had a family reunion. She's in her work clothes." Chloe blushed red. She shouted something I couldn't hear before sprinting through the swinging kitchen doors, dropping the mop in the middle of the hallway. I stood there for a second, simply beaming. Then I snapped one more shot of the lonely mop bucket and returned to my table as if nothing had occurred. Of course, I didn't save those photos for myself. I forwarded them to my two closest cousins, the same ones that were in the family support chat when I dropped off the receipts months ago. By the time I arrived home, one of them had created a side-by-side meme. On the left, Chloe poses in Italy with shopping bags. On the right, Chloe in her blue janitor outfit is labeled, "Living the life she deserves." The next day I awoke to a torrent of texts from her. "Delete those images right now. You are obsessed with damaging me. I will sue you." I responded with a thumbs up emoji. That is it. A few hours later, Mom phoned. I didn't respond. Then Dad called. The same outcome. Then they attempted calling from a blocked number, which went directly to voicemail. I saved that one without listening. I did not need to hear the script. I already knew it was some combination of "you've gone too far and we're still family." They didn't understand that this wasn't going too far. This was precisely how far I wanted to go. This was not about vengeance for anything they had done. It was about allowing them to live in the reality they had created while periodically going by to admire the vista. Chloe had lived her entire life believing she would always be on top. That someone, whether it was me, my parents, the family, or someone else, would step in to save her, no matter how badly she fouled up. Seeing her in that outfit, scrubbing floors, and knowing there was no rescue on the way was better than any bogus apology she could have given. When I exited the restaurant that night, I passed by the kitchen doors again. Chloe was back at her position, head down and avoiding eye contact. I didn't pause, didn't say anything, just let my laughter trail behind me like perfume, since blue truly suits her.